I'm Garrick Francis. This is the Inheritance to Income podcast, where we help families, founders, and leaders move from legacy by default to legacy by design. If you're building something for the next generation and you're not quite sure what comes next, you're in the right place. I'm your legacy advocate. Let's talk about it. People spend 30 or 40 years working, saving, building, only to arrive at the moment they were planning for and realize they don't quite know how to live inside it. And the risk isn't just discomfort. It's not just identity loss. It's not even primarily financial. The real risk is this: failing to deploy what you've built into your life, the people you care about, and the next generation. It's what I call the legacy deployment gap. Most people think retirement is a financial milestone. You work all of your life, you save, you accumulate, you build, and eventually you get to stop. But what I see over and over again is that retirement is not just a financial transition, it's a design transition. And when that design is missing, things start to break. Not loudly, not all at once, but quietly. People begin to hesitate, they delay, they drift, they hold back, they second-guess decisions they've earned the right to make. Not because you failed, but because you were trained to build, lead, grow, invest, acquire, and hold. Definitely not to transition. And for some people, this transition doesn't even come by choice, especially in today's world. It comes through disruption. A job loss or a role ends, a door closing later in life when you thought you had more time. There are people in their 50s, even their 60s, who don't get another foothold in the W-2 world. Not because they lack experience, not because they lack value, but because the system they helped build has moved on. And now the question becomes, what do you do when the structure you depended on, you built, is no longer there? This is where the conversation changes, but because now it's not just about retirement, it's about reinvention and deployment. And the same principle applies. If you don't design what comes next, you just drift into it. The legacy deployment gap is simple to understand, but can be difficult to live through. It's the gap between what was accumulated and what is meaningfully deployed into life, family, and future stewardship. You can be successful financially and still fail this transition. The first transition goes like this: builder to steward of life. Builders are rewarded for discipline, for restraint, for long-term thinking, for delaying gratification. Those are strengths. But if those strengths are never reoriented, they become limitations. Because the mindset that helped you build is not the same mindset required to live well. So what happens? The saver mindset stays in place. Preservation becomes the default and life gets postponed, even when it no longer needs to be. Stewardship is not just about preserving what you've built. It's about using it in alignment with what and who actually matters. So practically, what does that mean? It means defining what money is for now. Not just what it protects, but what it enables. It means creating a personal deployment plan, kind of like a professional development plan, but for you. Where does your life actually go? What experiences, what relationships, your health, your contribution to society. Because if you don't decide where your resources go with intention, they default to preservation. The second transition is control to transferred authority. Work didn't just give you income, it gave you structure. It gave you decision making, it gave you relevance. And when that disappears, most people are not prepared for what replaces it. Some people hold on too long. Others step back too quickly, without clarity or structure, without preparation, and both create tension. Because legacy doesn't transfer automatically. It has to be designed. What you're really navigating is authority, right? Where does it live now? Where should it begin shifting? Who's being prepared to carry it? This doesn't happen all at once, but it comes from observing and participating, leading, owning, shifting bit by bit. And one of the most important questions you can ask is this: what decisions am I still making that someone else should be learning to make? And what should I be replacing it with? Because when authority is unclear, tension is inevitable. But when authority is clarified early, it reduces conflict later. And then there's the third transition, from accumulation to generational impact. Wealth can transfer instantly, but readiness cannot. Families spend decades, right? Decades building assets, but very little time preparing the people who will receive them. Family succession planning is rare. So what happens? The next generation inherits, but without context, without understanding, without shared vision, and often without the preparation necessary to move forward. Legacy is not just what you pass down, it's how you prepare others to carry it and to grow it and to build from it. That preparation happens through unaccustomed conversation, from exposure, from involvement, from engagement, sharing the origin story, explaining the trade-offs, making values visible, bringing the next generation into the process before they're responsible for the outcome. Because if they only receive assets, they inherit weight without preparation that can weigh them down and force them to start all over again. Now, underneath all of this is often a real fear. What if I run out? And that fear isn't irrational, but if it goes unmanaged, it becomes a silent decision maker and a silent killer. And when that happens, it overrides good intentions. The goal is not reckless spending, but the goal is intentional deployment. At the highest level, there are really three places your resources can go. You give through them, you live with them, or you steward them forward. To give is to extend impact into people, into family, into community, into causes that you believe in. It shifts the focus from holding to contributing, to creating that impact in your life, giving you a place to serve your time, your talent, your resources, to make a daily difference. To live is to actually experience life, to protect and enhance your health, to build positive relationships, time that doesn't come back. This is where what you built becomes real. It's where you travel and learn new things. It's where you invest in yourself to learn a new skill, a new language, something that continues your development every day. How do you get better day by day? And to steward is to preserve and prepare, to ensure continuity for the next generation, to develop the people who will carry it forward. This is where all of the planning that you've done, the estate planning, the financial planning, the legal planning, the values planning is deployed. It's where you really start thinking about your children's implementation of what you've developed. And all three matter. Because if everything is preserved and nothing is given or lived, that's not stewardship. It becomes stagnation. If you're entering retirement or approaching it, don't treat it as an ending. Treat this next year as a deployment design year. Here's the practical application. First, define what a meaningful week looks like. Second, map how your resources will be used. Third, have unaccustomed authority conversations. Take one intentional step in each of these areas. And if what you've heard hits home with you, please hit the like and subscribe and share button. Share this with someone who could use it within your family so that these unaccustomed conversations become real. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking alone. It comes from movement. Retirement is not the end of responsibility. It's a transition of responsibility. You didn't spend your life building something just to protect it, to put it in a cave. You built it to give, to live, and to steward, to pass forward intentionally. And now, let me just take a moment to give you a word about our sponsor. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Inheritance to Income. Inheritance to Income is brought to you by Garrick Francis Studios. Whether you're preserving something for the future or creating something for today, photography, videography, and editing. Check out the link in the show notes below or check garrickfrancisstudios.com. So, legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you actively put into motion while you're still here. It's what you decide today to take that first step. It's how you address this legacy deployment gap and take this design year to make good decisions. And if you've suffered an unexpected transition, you still have the ability to step back and design what comes next. And so I want to thank you for the time you've granted me. I never take that lightly. If this conversation really stirred something in you, again, please share it with someone who may need it and take a step towards the clarity your family, your future, your legacy deserves. Inheritance may begin by default, but legacy requires design. I'm Garrick Francis. God bless.